The world is full of noise, distractions, and empty promises. And yet, amidst it all, there are voices that have weathered the storms of time and trial, voices that echo through the ages, calling us back to something deeper, something far more substantial than the surface-level promises we are offered today. The frontier wisdom is a wisdom that comes not from comfort, but from struggle. It is a wisdom forged in the crucible of difficulty, patience, and suffering. It is a wisdom that, if we are to embrace it, will demand much from us. It is not a wisdom for the faint-hearted, the lazy, or the self-satisfied. In our day, we have forgotten what it means to be strong. We have traded true strength for the appearance of strength. We have traded true wisdom for the illusion of knowledge. And we have traded the path of the righteous for the path of ease, comfort, and convenience. But there is a truth, an undeniable, inescapable truth that we must all face. The way of ease is not the way of life. The way of comfort is not the way of victory. The path of convenience is not the way of righteousness. You see, true wisdom, the kind of wisdom that changes lives and transforms nations, is not a wisdom that we can gain by sitting in the comfort of our homes, surrounded by our luxuries, and living in our little bubbles. No, this wisdom is gained by walking the hard, rough road, the road that requires blood, sweat, and tears. It is gained by standing firm in the face of opposition, by pressing on when all the world says to stop, by remaining faithful when it feels like you're the only one left. There is a reason why those who have lived on the frontiers of civilization, those who have ventured into the unknown, those who have faced hardships, endured trials, and fought battles on both the outside and the inside, hold a special place in our hearts and minds. They are the ones who have learned what truly matters. They are the ones who have faced their own weaknesses, their own fears, their own brokenness, and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more capable of serving the greater good. This is the kind of wisdom that the world needs. It is the kind of wisdom that we must seek. But it is not a wisdom that can be gained easily. It is not a wisdom that comes from merely hearing the right words or reading the right books. No, it is a wisdom that must be earned. It is a wisdom that must be cultivated in the soil of suffering, in the furnace of hardship, and in the crucible of testing. Our world is desperately in need of people who are willing to embrace this frontier wisdom. People who are willing to press on when the road gets tough. People who are willing to stand firm when others are caving in. People who are willing to sacrifice their own comfort and security for the sake of something greater, something that will last far beyond their own lifetimes. But you must ask yourself, are you willing to be one of those people? Are you willing to step out of the comfort and security that you have built for yourself and walk into the unknown? Are you willing to face the pain, the rejection, the loneliness, and the exhaustion that come with the path of wisdom? Too many today are living for the fleeting pleasures of the moment, for the things that satisfy for a brief second and then vanish. Too many are living as if this life is all there is, and that the pursuit of pleasure, wealth, and comfort is the highest aim. But I tell you, these are lies. These are empty pursuits. These are the distractions that keep us from seeing what is truly important, what is truly worthy of our time, our energy, and our devotion. The frontier wisdom we speak of does not look like the wisdom of the world. It does not look like the success stories that are often celebrated in magazines or on TV. No, the wisdom of the frontier is not found in fame, fortune, or the applause of the crowd. It is found in humility. It is found in faithfulness. It is found in sacrifice and perseverance. It is found in the quiet moments when no one is watching and when the only thing that matters is being true to what is right. We need men and women who are willing to lay down their lives for what is true, for what is right, for what is right, for what is eternal. We need people who are not afraid to stand against the tide of popular opinion, who are not afraid to stand up for righteousness even when it costs them everything. We need people who will look beyond the fleeting pleasures of this world and set their sights on something far greater, the glory of God and the eternal good of others. And this is where the frontier wisdom begins. It begins with a willingness to sacrifice. It begins with a willingness to say no to the things that the world says are important, and yes to the things that God says are important. It begins with the willingness to endure hardship, to endure suffering, and to remain faithful even when it seems like all hope is lost. The true frontier wisdom does not come to those who are unwilling to pay the price. It comes to those who are willing to endure the difficulties, to press on when others turn back, and to remain faithful when it seems like there is no reward. It comes to those who are willing to trust in the promises of God, even when they cannot see the way forward, and to rely on His strength when their own strength has failed. It is easy to say, I want wisdom. It is easy to say, I want to be a person of character and integrity, but do you really want it? Do you really understand what it will cost you? Are you truly prepared to endure the trials, the rejection, the hardships, and the loneliness that will inevitably come with the pursuit of this wisdom? There are no shortcuts to true wisdom. There are no easy paths. There is no instant gratification. There is only the hard, difficult road that leads to life. And it is a road that you must walk by faith, trusting that God will give you the strength to persevere, to endure, and to press on to the end. The frontier wisdom is not about accumulating knowledge for the sake of knowledge. It is about applying that knowledge in a way that honors God and serves others. It is about living a life of integrity, a life of character, a life that is not afraid to face the difficulties and challenges of this world head on. It is about standing firm in the face of opposition, standing strong in the face of temptation, and remaining faithful in the midst of trial. The frontier wisdom is not about looking for an easy way out. It is not about looking for a shortcut. It is about embracing the difficulties and challenges of life, trusting that through them God will shape you into the person He has called you to be. It is about learning to live with purpose, to live with intention, and to live with a sense of eternal perspective that drives everything you do. Too many people today are living as if this life is all there is. They are living for the temporary pleasures of this world, for the fleeting joys of wealth, success, and comfort. But I tell you, these things will not last. They will fade away. They will pass. Only the things of eternal value will remain. If you are to embrace the frontier wisdom, you must learn to look beyond the things that are temporary and set your sights on the things that are eternal. You must learn to see the world through the eyes of faith, through the eyes of someone who knows that what is unseen is more real than what is seen. You must learn to live in light of eternity, to make choices that will have an impact far beyond your lifetime, choices that will bear fruit for generations to come. This is the essence of frontier wisdom. It is the willingness to live for something greater than yourself. It is the willingness to sacrifice your own comfort and security for the sake of a greater purpose. It is the willingness to endure hardship, to endure suffering, and to remain faithful even when it seems like all hope is lost. It is the willingness to trust in God, to rely on His strength, and to walk in obedience to His word, no matter the cost. The frontier wisdom is the wisdom of those who have gone before us, those who have faced the same struggles, the same trials, the same battles, and have come out on the other side victorious. It is the wisdom of those who have learned to endure, to press on, and to live for something greater than themselves. And it is the wisdom that you and I must seek if we are to live lives that honor God and make a difference in this world. Are you willing to embrace that wisdom? Are you willing to pay the price for it? Are you willing to walk the hard road, to endure the trials, and to remain faithful to the end? The choice is yours. The path is before you. The question is, will you walk it? The speech emphasizes that genuine wisdom, particularly frontier wisdom, is not easily attained. It is forged through struggles, hardships, and unwavering faith. This wisdom demands sacrifice, endurance, and a commitment to live for something greater than personal comfort or fleeting pleasures. It calls individuals to remain faithful, to persevere through trials, and to trust in God's strength, even when the journey is difficult. The speech stresses the importance of living with a focus on eternity rather than on temporary pleasures or worldly success. Frontier wisdom encourages individuals to make choices that honor God, have a lasting impact, and prioritize eternal values. It challenges people to rise above the distractions of the world and live with purpose, integrity, and character, knowing that only what is eternal truly matters. True wisdom is not something that is easily acquired. It is not something that can be picked up in a classroom or gained through the simple acquisition of knowledge. It is not found in comfort or ease. In fact, it is often born out of the fires of adversity and the grind of daily struggle. True wisdom requires sacrifice, endurance, and an unwavering commitment to the path of righteousness, even when that path is difficult and painful. It demands that we lay aside our own desires, comforts, and preferences in pursuit of a higher calling, a greater good. It calls us to give up the temporary pleasures of this world in exchange for something far more lasting, far more eternal. We live in a culture that prizes convenience, comfort, and instant gratification. We are conditioned to expect things to come easily and quickly. We want success without sacrifice, wealth without work, pleasure without pain. But wisdom does not come through shortcuts, nor does it come through the path of least resistance. It comes through the willingness to face difficulty head-on, to endure the hardships of life with patience, and to sacrifice in order to attain something that is truly valuable. When we look at the lives of those who have truly attained wisdom, we see a common thread. They have walked the hard road. They have faced trials, suffered loss, and endured hardships. They have been tested in ways that most people would never be willing to endure. And yet, through it all, they have emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable of understanding the deeper truths of life. This is the reality of true wisdom. It is not something that comes easily, but something that is earned through perseverance, sacrifice, and endurance. One of the fundamental aspects of true wisdom is the willingness to sacrifice. Sacrifice is not a word that is commonly embraced in our world today. In fact, it is often seen as a burden, something to be avoided at all costs. We live in a culture that tells us to take care of ourselves first, to pursue our own happiness and desires above all else. But the pursuit of wisdom requires a different mindset, one that is willing to put the needs of others above our own and to forego temporary pleasure in exchange for lasting fulfillment. Sacrifice can take many forms. For some, it may mean sacrificing time and energy in service to others. It may mean giving up personal goals or ambitions in order to serve a greater purpose. It may mean setting aside personal comfort in order to endure hardship for the sake of a higher calling. The key to true sacrifice is not in the act itself, but in the motivation behind it. True sacrifice is rooted in a desire to attain something greater than oneself, something that transcends the fleeting pleasures of this world and points toward eternity. Sacrifice also involves the willingness to endure. Endurance is the ability to persevere through hardship, to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. It is the ability to press on when everything within us screams to quit, when the road ahead seems impossible to traverse. True endurance is born out of a deep sense of purpose, a clear understanding of what is at stake, and a determination to see the journey through to the end, no matter how difficult the path may become. We live in a time when it is easy to give up when things get tough, when challenges arise. We are often tempted to take the easy way out, to quit and look for a more comfortable path. But endurance is a quality that separates those who attain true wisdom from those who merely pass through life without ever truly understanding it. Endurance requires the strength to hold on when everything around us falls apart, the courage to continue moving forward when it feels like we have nothing left to give. And it is in these moments of endurance that true wisdom is cultivated. To endure, one must have a sense of hope that transcends the present moment. It is the ability to see beyond the immediate struggles and to fix our eyes on the larger picture. This hope is not a shallow optimism or a naive belief that things will always turn out well. It is a deep, unwavering confidence in the ultimate purpose of life and the belief that our sacrifices and endurance are not in vain. When we endure, we are not just holding on for the sake of holding on. We are pressing forward with the belief that our efforts will produce something of eternal value, something that will last far beyond this fleeting life. True wisdom is not simply about knowledge, it is about application. It is about taking the truths that we know and applying them in our daily lives, especially in moments of difficulty. It is about making choices that reflect a deep understanding of what is truly important, even when those choices require us to make sacrifices or endure hardship. The person who possesses true wisdom is not the one who has read the most books or attended the most seminars. It is the person who has been tested in the fire, who has walked the hard road, and who has come out stronger on the other side. In the Bible, we are told that the testing of our faith produces perseverance. James 1:3. This is a powerful truth that points to the relationship between sacrifice, endurance, and wisdom. It is through the testing of our faith, through the trials and difficulties that we face, that our character is refined and our wisdom is deepened. Each trial, each difficulty, each moment of suffering is an opportunity to grow in wisdom and to learn to rely more fully on God's strength and grace. It is through these moments that we learn what it means to truly endure, to hold fast to our faith even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. There is a danger in avoiding hardship or seeking to escape from suffering. If we are always looking for the easy way out, if we are always trying to avoid pain and difficulty, we will never develop the endurance and wisdom that are necessary for true growth. The Bible calls us to rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. Romans 5:3-4. This is the process of becoming wise through suffering. We are refined and shaped into the people we were created to be. The path to true wisdom is not one that is paved with ease and comfort. It is a path that is often difficult, filled with obstacles, challenges, and setbacks. But it is through these difficulties that we learn to sacrifice, to endure, and to grow in wisdom. It is in the moments of hardship that we are most likely to discover our true strength, to learn what we are truly capable of, and to develop the kind of wisdom that can only be gained through the fires of life. Sacrifice and endurance are not just abstract concepts, they are practical realities that we must embrace if we are to live lives of wisdom. We cannot avoid the difficulties of life, nor can we expect to live without facing some form of trial or adversity. The key is not to seek to avoid suffering, but to learn how to endure it with grace and perseverance. And in doing so, we will grow in wisdom, becoming the kind of people who can navigate the complexities of life with strength, courage, and understanding. There is a cost to wisdom, and that cost is paid in the currency of sacrifice and endurance. The world may tell us to avoid pain, to pursue comfort, and to live for pleasure. But true wisdom calls us to a different path, a path that is marked by sacrifice, endurance, and an unwavering commitment to the greater good. This is the path that leads to true understanding, to a deeper knowledge of what life is all about, and to a life that is truly worth living. Living with an eternal perspective requires a shift in how we view our lives and our world. It is a way of thinking, feeling, and acting that is shaped not by the temporary circumstances and fleeting pleasures of this world, but by an understanding of the greater reality that lies beyond it. The world is filled with distractions, and we are often pulled in every direction, focused on the immediate, the visible, and the momentary. But to live with an eternal perspective means that we learn to see life as it truly is, not just the here and now, but in light of the eternal truths that transcend this life. An eternal perspective begins with the recognition that this life is not all there is. We live in a world that values the tangible, the immediate, and the measurable. We are encouraged to focus on success, wealth, personal happiness, and the things that we can see, touch, and feel. These things are not inherently wrong, but when they become our sole focus, they blind us to the deeper truths of existence. Life on earth is fleeting, temporary, and fragile. Everything we know in this world is passing away: our health, our possessions, our achievements, and even our relationships. To live with an eternal perspective is to live with the awareness that we are part of a much larger story, a story that stretches beyond the limits of our lifetimes, beyond the temporal realities of this world, into eternity. This perspective brings with it a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, and a sense of clarity that allows us to make decisions not based on the pressures and expectations of the present, but on the greater truths that are eternal and unchanging. The challenge in cultivating an eternal perspective is that we are so deeply embedded in the temporal world. We are immersed in the culture around us, surrounded by messages that tell us to live for the moment, to prioritize our own comfort, and to seek immediate gratification. It is easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when the world around us constantly demands our attention and energy. But to live with an eternal perspective requires that we consciously step back, detach ourselves from the distractions, and intentionally reorient our hearts and minds toward what is lasting and eternal. The first step in living with an eternal perspective is recognizing that our lives are part of a much larger narrative. We are not the center of the universe. Our lives are but a brief chapter in a story that began long before us and will continue long after us. This truth humbles us and puts our lives in proper perspective. It reminds us that we are not the main characters of the story. We are part of a larger plan that has been unfolding for millennia. This recognition brings a sense of humility and awe. It reminds us that our lives are not isolated or insignificant, but that they are woven into a story that is far greater than we could ever imagine. Living with an eternal perspective also involves recognizing the brevity of life. We often live as though we have all the time in the world. We put off important decisions, we procrastinate in addressing our deepest concerns, and we assume that we will have endless opportunities to make changes or pursue our goals. But the reality is that our time on this earth is limited. The Bible speaks of the brevity of life in many places. It tells us that our lives are like a vapor, here for a moment and then gone, James 4:14. When we live with an eternal perspective, we understand the fleeting nature of our time on earth and are motivated to make the most of every moment. This awareness of the brevity of life gives us a sense of urgency and purpose. It drives us to live more intentionally, to prioritize what really matters, and to invest our time and energy in things that have eternal value. Living with an eternal perspective also requires a shift in our values. The world around us often values things that are temporary: wealth, fame, success, and pleasure. But the Bible tells us that the things that are visible are temporary, but the things that are unseen are eternal, 2 Corinthians 4:18. To live with an eternal perspective means that we begin to value things differently. We begin to see that our relationships, our character, our service to others, and our relationship with God are of far greater importance than the fleeting pleasures of this world. We begin to recognize that the choices we make today have eternal consequences. The way we treat others, the way we live out our faith, the way we invest in things that last, these are the things that will matter in the end. This shift in values also impacts how we view success. In a world that often measures success by wealth, status, or achievement, living with an eternal perspective allows us to redefine what success truly is. Success is not measured by how much we accumulate or how many accolades we receive, but by how faithful we are to the purposes of God. True success is found in living according to God's will and loving and serving others and being faithful to the calling He has placed on our lives. When we live with an eternal perspective, we are able to evaluate our lives not by the standards of the world, but by the standard of eternity. Another important aspect of living with an eternal perspective is the ability to endure hardship. Life is full of challenges, trials, and suffering. It is easy to become discouraged or to lose verve, face difficult circumstances. But when we live with an eternal perspective, we are able to view our suffering in a different light. We understand that the trials we face in this life are temporary, but they have the potential to produce something of eternal value. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 8:18, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." This understanding allows us to endure hardship with a sense of hope and perseverance. We know that our suffering is not pointless. It is part of the process of refining us and shaping us into the people we were created to be. Living with an eternal perspective also frees us from the fear of death. Death is something that most people try to avoid thinking about. It is uncomfortable, it is unsettling, and it often feels like the end of everything. But when we live with an eternal perspective, we understand that death is not the end. In fact, it is the beginning of something far greater. Jesus Himself promised that He has gone to prepare a place for us, and that He will return to take us to be with Him forever. John 14:2-3. For those who have put their faith in Christ, death is not a finality, but a transition into the fullness of life that God has prepared us. This hope gives us peace in the face of death, knowing that we are secure in Christ, and that our future is secure with Him. Living with an eternal perspective also helps us to prioritize what is truly important. When we are focused on the temporary things of this world, we can become easily distracted by things that do not matter in the grand scheme of life. We can waste time, energy, and resources on pursuits that have no lasting value. But when we live with an eternal perspective, we are able to discern what is truly important and focus our lives on those things. We begin to prioritize relationships over possessions, character over achievement, service over self-interest, and eternal rewards over temporary pleasures. The way we live each day is shaped by the perspective we have. If we live for the moment, we will be consumed by the pressures and distractions of this world. But if we live with an eternal perspective, we will be able to rise above the noise, the chaos, and the fleeting pleasures of this life. We will be able to live with purpose, to invest in what matters, and to make decisions that reflect the eternal truths we know. This perspective not only shapes the way we live, but also the way we approach the world around us. It frees us from the need to seek validation, to chase after temporary successes, and to live for the approval of others. Instead, it directs our hearts and minds toward the eternal things that truly matter. Ultimately, living with eternal perspective is about aligning our lives with the truth that this world is not our home. Our citizenship is in heaven, and we are called to live as ambassadors of that eternal kingdom while we are here on earth. The Apostle Paul encourages us in Colossians 3:2 to set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. When we set our minds on the eternal, we are able to live in a way that reflects the values of the kingdom of God and invest our lives in things that will last forever. Living with an eternal perspective means that we live not for the things of this world, but for the things of God, things that will remain long after this life is over.